Hey everyone, PM Hester here with How to Take a Break. You might have tuned in last week when I talked about how to take a break from work, and I provided some tips that may or may not have applied to you. We also had a good conversation in the comments. Consider this week a part 2, if you will. So you have taken a break from work, a long break from work. What now? Let's talk about some tips on returning to work after a long break. You know what to do. Grab your pencil and paper. Let's get into it. All right. After you have taken a break from work, whether it is for one of the types of leave that we talked about, right? The sabbatical. If your job has something where you can go on loan to another agency. Maybe you've had to take some type of sick leave, or you military or something like that. All that to say, you're not been at your job. You have taken a break from work, but now it's time to go back. What do you do? How do you do it? What does it look like? I came up with 4 things, and we're going to work our way through these 4 things. And of course, please feel free to drop things in the comment to add to this conversation. Number 1, returning to work after a long break. I want you to ease yourself back in. Ease yourself back in. Now, I do know that this is contingent, right, upon like your reasoning for your long break. Maybe you were laid off your job, so you may not have the luxury of easing back in because you got to pay your bills. But for some of the other people, if you like took this time off by choice, so to speak, or even like you're a new mother, try to ease your way back in. And I say that because I want you to know what you're walking back into when you're returning to this job, this place that you have worked with before. You're probably going back maybe into the same role, but maybe you're not. So I want you to ease back in. If you were on loan or you took a sabbatical, that may mean before you return, like maybe a couple of weeks before it's time for you to return, setting up some meetings with your management. Just to be like, hey, so I'm coming back in a couple of weeks. Is there anything I should know before I walk back up in here? Managers will sometimes fluff over some things. So if you have like a good friend or some colleagues in the organization, set up some meetings with them to kind of like get a pulse of what's going on inside that office now. So you're not surprised when you when you come up in there. You don't want to be surprised by assignments that you were doing before you left being now the responsibility of somebody else, and they're not coming back to you, or there's been a managerial shakeup and then you're like popping in the last to know, and it may make you feel some type of way because you might have liked your old manager and now you got this new person who don't like you. So I want you to ease back in. One situation that's happening at my job now, we've had a young lady who has been out on maternity leave. And so instead of just coming back in with a full-time schedule with 40 hours a week, she's starting part-time. So she's only coming in like half days while she, still figures out childcare, but also gets acclimated because she's been out for like so many months for maternity leave. She's getting acclimated with like how much things have changed. And so that's kind of like helping her mental health wise, but also, get the lay of the land. So we're not just throwing her back into projects. So number 1, returning to work after a long break, ease back in. Number 2, set a routine. As you're trying to ease back into your job, I think you need to set something up so that you're not jumping back into the same old, the way things used to be. So I want you to set a routine for going back to work, because your mind also may not be there, and routines kind of help us get our mind and our body back online and into, what's next? What does work look like now? So it might be using some type of app or setting alarms on your phone. Okay, 1, you want to make sure you set the alarms for the new time you have to get up to go back to your old job or whatever. Setting aside maybe some quiet time, As you go back into this job, you can return to this job, maybe setting up some quiet time in the morning to journal and reflect, to get your mindset to clock in. You might want to start like some type of exercise routine, again, to help shift you into this mindset of, for 3 months, 1 month, or whatever, I was doing this, now I'm going back to the same old, same old. So set up some type of routine to help put you back in, I'm returning into this job mode. Number 3, put new tools in practice. So one of the things we talked about on the taking a break from work was if you took the opportunity to take a break from work and explore some other type of passion. All right, if you did that, now how are you going to implement some of those things that you learned on your break into this new role? Are there some things that you've always wanted to change that you never knew how to do? Now you know how to do them. Make a plan on how you're going to put these new tools in practice. Like we talked about the routine. Maybe there were some things that you learned about not just setting up the morning routine, but maybe you learned on your break that you took from your job that you have to do something in the afternoon to keep you engaged. You have to set timers and things like that. Put those into practice now that you have returned to work in your old role or maybe some new role. Which leads me into like my number 4. After returning to work after a long break, make a plan of action. Make a plan of action. So this is for those folks that are returning to a job after your same job, after you went on break, they allowed you to take some leave to figure some stuff out. Now you need to make a plan of action. All right, you're back in this job. You've been sitting in this job, this return to work for a couple of periods, couple of weeks of time. Are you gonna stay in this job now that you're back in it? Have you recognized that this job really is not a good fit, or you want more responsibilities? What's the plan of action for what's next with your life after you've taken this break? Is it setting up some time to talk to your boss about maybe moving to another area in the company? Or is it time to think about going back to school to do what you really want? Now that you've had this breathing room, you've turned to work and recognize this is what I want to do, it's not this. Or is part of the plan of action figuring out, all right, I took some time off, I've returned, I really don't like being at this place at all. Your plan of action is, what's my next job? How am I gonna get it? Who do I need to network with? All right, returning to work after a long break, the top 4 tips are ease yourself back in. That's number 1. Number 2, set a routine. Number 3, put new tools in practice. Number 4, make a plan of action. What are some tips for returning to work after a long break that you have? Drop them in the comments. I can't wait to see them, to read them, and to talk with you. Until next time, find a little time to take a break. Bye.